A lot of people were asking us if we could do like a Therapy Thursday every week, and what Therapy Thursdays are. It's kind of just a safe space. You guys to come in and ask questions about relationship questions or just like advice.
Yeah. Another cooking stream? No, so cooking streams are reserved for only Tuesdays. We wanted to try this new thing called Therapy Thursdays because during cooking streams, a lot of people would ask like advice on relationships and stuff. We just decided to do like a whole separate stream for like asking advice and like, you know, talking about relationships and like what to do during these. It's just like it's an area or like a space where we could just share our experiences because we're not as young anymore. But when we were married, I was 22 and he was 25, so we like married pretty young. So a lot of people have a lot of questions because a lot of people our age actually aren't married.
Yeah. How often do you guys get into quarrels? So quarrels are fights, right? So, I mean, our fights nowadays are very superficial in terms of just like we bicker about stupid stuff. It's not really about necessarily like big issues. We don't really have big issues anymore to the point where it's like jeopardizing to our relationship necessarily. It's just more like, it's about like stupid stuff. Like,
when you've been together long enough, you start to fight like your siblings. Like, you know, like some days you just feel like pissing each other off just because it's funny. It's one of those.
I think one thing that's healthy is fighting very early in the relationship. Not to the point where it's toxic and you guys are like cursing at each other and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you guys are first dating your significant other and kind of like, you guys are kind of feeling each other out, right? I think that's what it is. When you're first getting into a relationship, you guys are kind of just bodying each other and
bodying?
Yeah, like getting used to each other, your likes and dislikes and what you like and dislike about that person. And you bring it up, and I don't think it's necessarily arguing. I think arguing is healthy to a certain extent as long as you guys are coming out of that in a healthy way. Like Michelle and I always used to say when we were dating, it's not about how often or how bad the fights are, it's about how we come out of it. And are we willing to change and are we willing to work on each other's imperfections and come out of every fight and every situation better, right? Like for example, like cutting each other off. So I used to always cut her off. Like when we're arguing, I would cut her off and be like, hey, like I need to say my piece. I need to say my portion that I want to say. And that was very invalidating for her. And she didn't feel heard at all in our arguments. And just in general daily life, because she wasn't able to even finish her thought process without me cutting her off and be like, oh, like this, and this.
Where it's like we won't talk to each other for the rest of the day type of fighting. We probably do that like once every 2 months or something.
Mental health question. I work as a farm in a hospital and my mental health is dropping significantly. Tried therapy in the past, but they never really connected with me. Is there any other things I should try?
We've never like tried therapy, but we have some friends that have, and they always say that therapy can be tricky because you have to play around with a bunch of different therapists to find the one that you like. Because at the end of the day, even though it is a therapist, like you are still talking to another person, and if that person just doesn't seem to connect with you generally, then obviously it's not gonna make you wanna open up about your mental health issues. It sounds scary to find a new career, but ultimately if it's a career that you're supposedly supposed to be doing for the rest of your life and it's making you have mental health issues, it's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, your mental health is most important. As somebody that like studied medical and you were in medical school too, like everyone knows that stress is the #1 killer.
But in terms of overall mental health, definitely let your peers and your family know as well. I think them being involved to a certain extent, not being overly involved, but them knowing where your mental health is at is extremely important.
Yeah, like check in.
Thank you so much. So it's been almost a couple years now, and I feel like we get into arguments every other day because I don't understand her well enough. So let me go off of it first because I have related to that at a certain point. I think the way that I was able to kind of go through that and talk to her about the I don't understand phase is I sat her down and I really told her, I was like, hey, like let's say you want to specify a certain argument or a certain disagreement that you guys had that is reoccurring, and I would sit her down and be like, hey, I want you to just take this time to just explain to me your side. Explain to me what's in your head and explain to me what you're unhappy about and what you want me to understand better. And when I was able to do that and sit down with her, she was able to, for 30 minutes, just vent about exactly what she wanted, exactly what her point was, exactly what she wanted me to understand, and me for 30 minutes not to say anything, right? Because number one, that'll make her feel heard. And number two, that'll make her really understand from your aspect what you aren't fully understanding. And maybe by you just sitting there and like just listening and not trying to talk, you'll actually understand better because she's able to completely tell you exactly what she means. I'll give her a time where she can literally just vent. about exactly what she doesn't feel like I understand. Do you want to give your rebuttal?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times when people say I don't understand her, it's because one, if somebody says you don't understand me, that means they don't feel heard. I don't understand her means you're not listening,
right?
If that makes sense. So yeah, in terms of I don't understand her, that could be a listening issue, or that could just be something where you guys are just different. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing to be different. It just means that you have to be more accepting of the other person as who they are, if that makes sense.
How do y'all keep your relationship healthy? That's Sarah's question. So Sarah, for us, I think our key to success in staying together for 7+ years now is being each other's best friend, right? Like, I don't ever get bored of hanging out with her. She doesn't ever get bored of hanging out with me. And at the end of the day, if you're each other's best friend, you want to work on your relationship when it's not good. So for example, people like to give up on the relationship because of the fact that at the end of the day, they aren't all in to the relationship, right? Like they're in their head, they're like, well, I can find somebody else better, or I can find this and that. But if you find someone that matches you internally more than the outside, like physical attraction is one thing, but that fades eventually. What you guys have to understand is, yeah, when you're fresh and you're 18 to 30 years old, your body's gonna be rocking or whatever. You guys are gonna be at your prime. You're gonna be sexy, you're gonna be hot, whatever. When you're 40, 50 years old, that goes away. And once that goes away, that's it. If you don't like their personality, if you guys don't mesh personality-wise, that's it. Your marriage and whatever, if you don't agree to get married and you're just in a relationship, it's gonna get and once that happens, then what is your relationship based on if you guys aren't in love with what you have on the inside?
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
For the whole physical attraction thing, like physical attraction or how you look physically fades as you get older. It's also like, as human beings, when you see something every day, eventually you get used to it, right? Even if it's a year in or 2 years in, like even if you're dating the most like hottest guy or the sexiest girl, if you see them every day, you're just gonna be like, oh, it's this person.
Yeah.
Like other people obviously would still think the same thing, but because you see them every day, you get used to it. So that's why like a lot of times when there are relationships that start off very like physically focused, eventually and inevitably as human beings, you just get bored of the same thing over and over, right? It's the same thing as for everything. Like if you eat the same food every day, you'll get bored of it. If you have the same job, you do the same thing every day, you'll get bored of it. If you see the same people every day, you'll get bored of them. Like that's just how it is. That's why it's like so important to find somebody that matches you personality-wise, and then on top of that, you guys are a good wavelength and you balance each other out very well. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Andy, who's better at cooking what?
Huh? Who's better at cooking? Oh, who's better? Your mom's cooking
My
or Michelle's
mom!
cooking?
My mom! 100% my mom. And it's
You're
not
right.
close.
You're right.
Do you guys believe that you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else?
Yes. Yes. The best way to love someone else is to love yourself first. Mostly because when you're in a relationship, it's about two people coming together from very different backgrounds. And if you don't understand yourself, you're gonna be in situations where you guys get upset about stuff. And if you don't even know yourself why you're upset, that's gonna make it a lot more difficult for the other person to understand you and get to know you too. So I think it's really important for you to love yourself, know your self-worth, have self-respect, know yourself well before you get into a relationship. Yeah, loving yourself is really important. That's the first step before you should love anybody else.
What about sharing each other's bank accounts? I think that's a marriage question. I think you shouldn't be sharing your bank accounts unless you're married.
Do not share.
Because that's terrible idea if you guys are just dating.
Yep.
But if you are in a long-term 8, 9, 10-year dating relationship, I think that's a little different.
Never mesh money.
Yeah.
What'd you hit today at the gym?
Michelle and I both hit shoulders and arms.
Shoulders and arms. Can you flex?
No, I'm just kidding.
Do you want to see mine? Want to see mine? Oh, wait! Oh my God, did you see that?
Well, do it. Let me see. Oh, sheesh.
Oh, shit.
Should I ask my boyfriend when he comes home from work to blatantly stop talking to that girl, or wait to see if she makes another move? Because I don't know if they are talking or not. I don't want to randomly ask when he's not bringing it up. I think you can talk about it whenever the on.
I think you can bring it up and just be like, hey, I was just wondering, like, this person, remember when she did this? Does she still talk to you? Like, you can just ask that, and if he's like, no, not really, depending on his answer, or if he's still like, yeah, she still kind of tries to talk to me here and there, then obviously you can express your discomfort. Honestly, sometimes you can show up to work and just be like, hi, babe, and show your face, and then the girl will be like, Oh, girlfriend's here.
Her heart's gonna stop.
Girlfriend's here, you know. She's like, hey babe, how's work?
Her heart's gonna stop.
You know?
She's gonna be like, oh, if you want to put up like questions for a relationship therapy Thursdays, then put it on our Discord and we'll ask you guys to list the questions there before we go live, just so it's a little more organized.
I didn't see Portal today yet.
All right, we're signing off.
Oh God, hugs and kisses only. Yeah.